Welcome to our intermediate sheets practice. In this practice, we're going to talk more about conditional formatting. Coincidentally, we're going to be using the same practice sheet that the beginner formula activity is using, and it allows us to build on an activity if you need the practice from beginning to end. You'll notice down here at the bottom, I've got some different tabs all the way across. The tabs that have the blue highlight at the bottom are the ones that have conditional formatting practice. So for reference, practice tab 1, practice 2, and final practice are where you're going to find the advanced practice for conditional formatting. The answer key for this final practice is also over here if you'd like to see an example of what it looks like finished. I did not provide an answer key for practice 1 or practice 2. So let's look at practice 1. So for this particular example, with conditional formatting, it's an if-then setup. So I'm programming the cell to do a particular task when a certain qualifier is met. If the correct answer is placed in the cell will change from yellow to a different color. The only cells I have programmed on this particular sheet are the ones that are currently colored in this practice space. So let's start with A4 since the data is already in place. I'm going to click on A4. I'm going to go to Format and Conditional Formatting. This is my conditional formatting menu over here on the right-hand side. You'll see that cell A4 is set to turn green when text is exactly A4. So if I click on this, and if I leave everything as is and just change the color, the fill color to, let's say, orange, and done, I've now changed the what happens when the correct answer is placed. Now to test this, I can delete the answer A4, it turned back to yellow. If I type in A4 and press enter, it will turn back to orange. For practice 2, I did conditional formatting for these top answers up here, but I did not set them in place for these bottom answers for part 2. So you're going to add conditional formatting for this entire section. Now, because all of these have the same end result and it's a range, I can actually conditionally format them in one step. So my conditional format window is already open. I'm going to select the cells that I want to program, and I'm going to go over here and add another rule. I'm going to add another rule. We're applying it to this range, which is noted here, A10 to A13. And I want them to turn a certain color if the answer is 75. So I can go down and I can select if the answer is equal to, and then I have to type in my value, 75, and then I can choose my color. So I have set up my if-then programming for these cells. This is the range that I'm applying my conditional formatting to. The rule that I'm using is equals to. The value is 75 and the color is blue. Now it doesn't have to be blue. It could be a bold or it could be underlined. I could turn it red. You have lots of options, so feel free to play with those different options here. For this one, I'm just going to keep it blue and move on. Our final practice here is with our grade book. So for this one, we're going to show you how to do a color scale instead of just a single color. So I'm going to highlight my grades all the way across, and I'm going to add another rule. And this time, instead of doing a single color, I'm going to do color scale. This is great for grade books or testing for highs, mediums, and lows. So color scale. I've got a bunch of options when I click on the preview for default. This kind of automatically programs a middle, a max, a midpoint, and a minimum point for your values. So I can click here. I can go with the yellow, green, and red, which personally I think is a little busy. We can do this one here. We can do this one here, depending on what numbers you want to highlight. I like this one here for this example. You can also decide and add things. So maybe 50 max value is 100. So you have a little bit of control over what those ranges showcase. Want to utilize conditional formatting as a lesson with your students? Applied Digital Skills has a great one ready to go called Make Art with Google Sheets. You actually can create a pixel art project using this very same setup, conditional formatting, in a spreadsheet. With Applied Digital Skills, the videos, how to create a grid, how to create the color palette, and create your images is all here for you. And as a teacher, if you check out the teaching materials, you should be able to see a sample project underneath the rubric. So if we open up the rubric, down here, here's an example of an exemplary project, an example of a basic project.